Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. We begin with His Majesty the King's landmark address at the graduation ceremony of the 26th batch of Mu'ta University Military Wing. Jordan faces domestic challenges, solutions to which are in our hands, His Majesty said, as well as challenges imposed on us as a result of regional and global circumstances that should be wisely and responsibly managed. The King identified local challenges as attempts by some to doubt the success of political reforms, recently witnessed cases of violence in society and in some universities, and a sense of lack of justice and equal opportunities. The King said doubt is expected and is part of any change process and necessary to consolidate constructive domestic dialogue and effective political action. But what is important is for the process to continue without hesitation and for everyone to realize that the goal of reform is to change citizens' lives for the better. Violence, King Abdullah said, must be treated from its roots, through ensuring a just distribution of developmental gains among all, tackling poverty and unemployment, strengthening good governance, and developing economic and social policies in order to strengthen citizens' trust in state institutions. His Majesty stressed that it is not a tribal culture that is the reason behind the displays of violence, as some may think.
لا يا أخوان، ثقافتنا وبنيتنا العشائرية الأصيلة لا تقبل العنف. وإحنا كلنا أبناء عشائر من كل المنابت والأصول، سواء كنا في البادية أو في القرية أو المدينة أو المخيم. وهذا مصدر قوتنا ووحدتنا الوطنية، وأحد أهم أسباب الأمن والاستقرار في مجتمعنا. لن تكن العشيرة أو العائلة في أي يوم من الأيام سبب للفوضى أو العنف أو الخروج على القانون، كما يظن من لا يعرف المعنى الحقيقي للعشيرة أو طبيعة المجتمع العشائري. بالعكس، العشيرة ساهمت بشكل رئيسي في تأسيس الدولة الأردنية الحديثة كدولة مؤسسات وقانون، والعشيرة كانت وستبقى رمز للنخوة والقيم الأصيلة والانتماء للوطن والحرص على الأمن والاستقرار وسيادة القانون. وأنا عبد الله ابن الحسين أعتز بالعشائر الأردنية لأنهم أهلي وعشيرتي الكبيرة.
The most important regional challenges, His Majesty continued, is the crisis in Syria with its harsh realities. However, he said Jordan and its people have a moral responsibility towards our Syrian brethren, despite the great responsibilities and sacrifices it entails. His Majesty highlighted efforts to find a political solution to the Syrian crisis, one that encourages refugees in Jordan and elsewhere to return to their country.
في كل تعاملنا مع الأزمة السورية كانت حماية مصالح الأردن وشعبنا العزيز هي هدفنا الأول والأخير. أما إذا لم يتحرك العالم ويساعدنا في هذا الموضوع كما يجب، أو إذا أصبح هذا الموضوع يشكل خطر على بلدنا، فنحن قادرين في أي لحظة على اتخاذ الإجراءات اللي تحمي بلدنا ومصالح شعبنا.
The Palestinian issue, His Majesty said, remains at the top of Jordan's priority, pledging his continued support to Palestinians until they establish their independent state.
أما ما نسمعه في بعض الأحيان من حديث عن الكونفدرالية أو غيرها، فهو حديث في غير مكانه ولا زمانه. ولن يكون هذا الموضوع مطروح للنقاش إلا بعد قيام الدولة الفلسطينية المستقلة تماما، وبإرادة الشعبين والدولتين. وأي حديث في هذا الموضوع قبل ذلك فهو ليس في مصلحة الفلسطينيين ولا الأردنيين. أما الحديث عن الوطن البديل أو التوطين أو الخيار الأردني، واللي حكينا فيها أكثر من مرة، فهو مجرد أوهام والأردن لن يقبل تحت أي ظرف من الظروف بأي حل للقضية الفلسطينية على حساب الأردن، وهذا من ثوابت الدولة الأردنية اللي لن تتغير. ويا إخوان، بدنا نخلص من هذه الإشاعات، وإن شاء الله إن شاء الله هذه آخر مرة بحكي فيها في هذا الموضوع.
His Majesty concluded by urging the cooperation of all to confront challenges through an equal distribution of burdens amongst all, high spirits, loyal work, and sense of responsibility. His Majesty said Jordanians can win over all challenges. The lower house issued a statement expressing support of His Majesty King Abdullah's speech, in which he vowed to firmly pursue the reform process. In the statement, lower house Speaker Saad Hail Sroor said on behalf of the representatives of the nation, he sends gratitude and love to His Majesty for his blessed leadership, adding that the King's words will be the beacon for the House in all of its endeavors. Separately, and in a meeting with European Union Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton, His Majesty reviewed Jordanian-EU relations as well as regional challenges, namely the crisis in Syria. His Majesty valued EU assistance to Jordan in support of ongoing political reform and highlighted milestones the kingdom has achieved on the path of the political and socio-economic reform program. The meeting also dealt with efforts to break the impasse in the Mideast peace process and the EU role in supporting a two-state solution and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. His Majesty again cautioned that Israeli unilateral practices can only serve to obstruct peace efforts. On Syria, His Majesty reiterated Jordan's call for a transitional political solution that preserves the unity of the country and saves the entire region from serious repercussions. Ashton praised reform efforts and said the EU will continue to coordinate with Jordan in confronting various regional challenges. His Majesty received a telephone call from German Chancellor Angela Merkel, during which they discussed bilateral ties and the situation in the region. The conversation tackled efforts to restart Palestinian-Israeli peace negotiations, leading to a just and lasting peace based on a two-state solution. On the Syrian issue, His Majesty again voiced his support of a political solution to end the violence and bloodshed in the country. Merkel reiterated her country's support to Jordan as it hosts a growing number of Syrian refugees and expressed appreciation of His Majesty's continued quest for peace and security in the Middle East. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour met with visiting Afghani Foreign Minister Zalmay Rasool to discuss bilateral ties and ongoing regional developments. Mansour reiterated Jordan's keen interest to further develop Jordanian-Afghani ties in various fields in what could serve the best interest of both peoples. Rasool voiced his appreciation of Jordan's support to Afghanistan, noting that the kingdom was the first Islamic nation to offer assistance in the area of medical training. Her Majesty Queen Rania today honored JRTV with a visit during which she met with a number of former and current radio and television women presenters and toured the corporation facility. She praised JRTV as a reputable institution renowned for its capable staff, but said experiences must be invested in through ongoing training workshops. Queen Rania acknowledged the big effort that media work needs, but said amid fierce competition in the industry and the many options available, it is imperative to build viewers' confidence and offer them programs they can relate to. Present during Her Majesty's visit were JRTV Director General Ramadan Rawashte and Minister of State for Media Affairs Mohammed Al-Momani. In Iraq, at least 30 people died and dozens more were hurt in several apparently coordinated bombings and a shooting across the country. The blast hit half a dozen cities and towns in the south and center, but nobody claimed responsibility for any of the attacks. The blast began when a parked car bomb went off in the industrial area of the city of Kut, and the gunman shot dead 6 policemen at a checkpoint near the northern city of Mosul. Syrians living in Egypt crowded outside their embassy in Cairo after Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi announced yesterday he had cut all diplomatic ties with Damascus. The gates to Syria's embassy were closed as Syrians gathered outside to collect documents and passports. Syrians living in Cairo were angry at the decision, saying they will be the only ones affected. Morsi said he had backed a no-fly zone over Syria and is now organizing an urgent summit of Arab and other Islamic states to discuss the situation in the country. Over to Turkey, where fresh unrest erupted in Ankara and Istanbul, with police firing tear gas and water cannon amid continuing anti-government protests. Turkey's riot police took back Taksim Square, occupied by the protesters for more than 2 weeks, after Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan had warned them that security forces could clear the area. But a few hours later, thousands took to the streets of Istanbul, barricading a main avenue leading to the square. Elsewhere in the city, Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan supporters gathered for a huge show of strength. Iranians celebrated moderate cleric Hassan Rouhani's presidential victory on the streets of Tehran after the Iranian Interior Ministry announced his landslide victory last night. Rouhani's nearest rival was conservative Tehran Mayor Mohammad Bakr Qalibaf, a long way behind with less than 16%. In an address broadcast on state television, Rouhani said there is a new chance for those who truly respect democracy, cooperation, and free negotiations, promising to work for all Iranians, including hardliners defeated at the poll. The stereotypical image most people have of bikers is that of a rowdy group of men and women looking for trouble. Yet fans of Harley-Davidson motorcycles flock to St. Peter's Square to attend an outdoor mass conducted by Pope Francis in an expression of faith. With their motorcycles parked a short distance from St. Peter's Square, the bikers made quite a statement. Their logoed T-shirts, leather jackets, and vests were an instant attraction as pilgrims stopped by to admire and photograph their bikes lined up along the street that leads up to St. Peter's Basilica. The bikers are in Rome for a 4-day event marking the 110th anniversary of the famous company, and earlier in the week presented the Pope with a gift of 2 motorcycles and a leather jacket. And finally, for a quick look at the weather, a slight rise in temperature is expected tomorrow, but it will remain moderate in most regions and hot in the Jordan Valley. In the Gulf of Aqaba, it will be relatively hot tomorrow with northerly moderate to brisk winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Nancy Khair. Thank you for watching and have a good night.